So, I finally got a job. It's been a wild ride, and if you're watching this while unemployed and struggling and feeling just all around lost, I just want you to know that you're not alone.
January hit me hard, but not in the way you'd think. I'd already been out of full time employment for 6 months by then. 6 months. Something I never envisioned when I was first laid off. When you first lose your job, there's this weird optimism. You think, okay, I'm qualified. I have experience. This should take a month, maybe two max. But here I was in January, still not fully employed, and now 15 pounds overweight from all those couch sessions. The anxiety had begun to set in. The worst part, I was starting to feel like I was losing my ability to speak. I bombed an interview, one of the very few I was even opportune to get. It was supposed to be easy, but I found it challenging, like very challenging. And it shouldn't have been, especially since it was just a screening interview that was being recorded for the employer's sake. I struggled to articulate things I had accomplished. Yes, I didn't have my usual script handy because I thought I had memorized everything at that point. It bothered me greatly. That was a missed opportunity that should have been in the bag. Here's what I realized. I needed to talk more. I was alone in my apartment, and outside of periodic communications with cashiers and Uber drivers, and of course family over the phone, I wasn't having conversations, like real conversations about ideas, my work, my interests, my day. And I was isolating myself, and it was killing my interview performance. So I decided to put it behind me and focus on the meetings I had coming up. I had about 3 to prep for, and some recruiters had reached out, and I couldn't afford to mess up again. Around mid-January, I was feeling completely demoralized, and I lacked the drive to continue looking for work. I was just going through the motions. That's when I found myself quoting Viktor Frankl. Man is pushed by drives, but pulled by values. And then it hit me. Maybe I needed to stop focusing on motivation and start examining what actually drove me and what I truly valued. It had been some years since my deconstruction, and I realized I hadn't really given that statement enough thought. I concluded that I was being driven by my desires and my impulses at that point. My impulse to eat what I want, something I'm still battling today. My desire to sleep whenever and wake up whenever I wanted. I appreciated that I gave up instead of enduring. I ate whatever I wanted and avoided working out. As for values, I had to search my soul because I wanted to actually be honest with myself. How can you hold values you do not practice and don't carry out? The things I know I should do, I do not do, and the things that I know I should not do, I do. Like, what was wrong with me? What is wrong with me? After half a year of decline, I desperately needed structure. I needed regimen, organization, and discipline. And I put to mind what James Clear advised in his book, Atomic Habits. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I had, and still have, unfortunately, shitty systems. I needed to structure the process of getting work, focus on my side hustles, and try to enjoy it, or at least learn to enjoy it. The process, that is. I kept telling myself the rest would come, or rather I forced myself to believe it would. But honestly, I was struggling to believe, struggling to enjoy the process, struggling to keep the anxiety at bay. I held onto this idea that 1% improvement every day was better than nothing, better than the yo-yo diets and the ups and downs I'd been stuck in. And even though I've always journaled to process things, I stopped doing my daily stream of consciousness writing because it was making me depressed and increasing my anxiety. All I had to enter was my shitty feelings about myself, why I was not able to find work, my anxieties about not finding work, and yeah, My self-perception was at an all-time low, and so continuing to write would have just worsened my state of mind. But me avoiding journaling for weeks at a time only further impacted my ability to articulate myself. By the end of the month, I started to anesthetize myself by doom scrolling, watching Asian dramas, reading books, and reading manhwa. I had an interview with Leidos, and I thought it went great. The recruiter was optimistic, but I kept waiting to hear back, and waiting, and waiting. From experience, I knew that when companies want you, you hear back pretty quickly, like within a few days, maybe a week at most. So when the silence stretched on, that was a bad sign. Companies are usually quick to give good news, but slow to give bad news, unless they really, really do not like you. Then I was told I had been shortlisted for a second round interview. I remember feeling confused because I thought I had blown them out of the water, but it looks like someone else had as well, and it was between them and me. I kept trying to find ways to channel my nervous energy and relax. I tried not to think about the other person. I knew, after all, in this economy, they must have been just as anxious and qualified as I was. All I could do was try my best, after all. Eventually, after the interview, I received bad news from Leidos, and it came right on the heels of a terrible interview I had with Deloitte. I was at a complete loss how to move forward. 7 months, no work, or rather, no full-time work, and no new prospects. I felt like giving up, but if I gave up, what would I do? I felt pressure to make money fast. The Etsy shop my sister and I had launched was going nowhere. Even if we started selling things, it wouldn't have made enough money, especially in the first few months based on trends. I started asking myself, how shall I eat? How shall I fend for myself? Where should I go? Which places are genuinely hiring right now? There were so many ghost jobs online, it was insane. I contemplated doubling down on the Etsy shop and relaunching my YouTube channel using shorts. I started looking to venture out of my field and reaching out to people from old bootcamp classes I had taken. I felt like all was lost, but I encouraged myself not to give up. I believed that my pain at the time would become a story one day, a story of me becoming stronger. In February, I found hope. It came in the form of a friend of mine with whom I had taken a boot camp class years prior. He introduced me to a new class he had taken to expand his skills. It fell under cloud security engineering. He mentioned that the field still had a lot of work, plus the guy who was teaching it had a larger network I could tap into. It felt like a lifeline. Following my friend's advice, I was also going to take the CompTIA Security Plus and AWS Security certification to boost my chances. In the meantime, I reached out to my uncle who knew a lot of small business owners, hoping to get some part-time or temporary work to add as another side hustle. But I got hit with him asking me to move in with him and put my belongings in storage. That took me aback. Upon reflection, I do feel grateful to know that I shall always be welcomed at his place in case I lose everything, but I was not seeking a handout. I was just seeking a hand, and I don't know if it was my ego advising me against taking his advice, but in all sincerity, I felt and still feel too old to be living under someone else's roof at this time. I'm African, and I grew up, visiting uncles and aunties over the holidays, and I don't long for the years when I would walk around on eggshells in their homes, aware of many unmarked boundaries. At my age, I decided that moving out would be a last resort. And so I promised myself to do everything to do well in the class and buff up my skills and interview like crazy. And I also made it a goal to get a job by my birthday, which in hindsight was hubris, as that was completely out of my control. But yeah, I guess him advising me to move back in just awakened inside of me a kind of like passionate response not to give up. Now, about the class, to be honest with you, it wasn't the best. It was disorganized, and the teacher took too much for granted. He, in my opinion, anyways, just didn't explain as well as he could. He didn't lay a good foundation for the students in his class. I could feel, even as an experienced engineer, that a lot of foundational concepts were not properly taught, and that a lot of new key ideas went over people's heads. I did, however, tap into his large network, which allowed me to get the job that I have today. By the beginning of April, I finally got a job. The offer was for a cloud specialist engineer at a software company. The position was hybrid, Tuesdays through Thursdays in the office, and Mondays and Fridays at home. Unfortunately, my other teammates were out of state, and so I was the only one local to the office, which made me wish that I was actually fully remote like them. But overall, I was grateful, and the long trial was over. The expectations of the new role were going to be heavy, but I looked forward to pushing myself and growing. I promised myself to rise to the challenge. So what did I learn from all of this? Well, first things first, I learned that my network was more valuable than my skills. I spent months perfecting my resume and taking courses when I really should have been reaching out to every single person that I knew. Second, isolation will kill your performance. You need to talk to people regularly about anything. Your ability to communicate will atrophy if you don't use it. So, yeah, talk to people a lot. Third, the job market is broken. Everybody knows that, but you still have to navigate it. And so, even though those jobs are real and the process is arbitrary, appreciate that someone less qualified than you may get the role, but that's not a reflection of your abilities or your talent. Fourth, systems matter much more than motivation. There were many times that I had a lot more motivation than I knew what to do with, but in reality, I had terrible systems, and so I failed to get up in the morning and do what I needed to do, even though I felt motivated to still go out there and look for work. So build structure first. Fifth, don't wait until you hit rock bottom like I did to ask for help. Reach out earlier, network earlier, be more vulnerable earlier. So if you're unemployed right now, I see you. I really do. I know what you're going through. The anxiety, the isolation, the questioning of your self-worth. I don't have much to offer right now by way of advice, I guess. That my whole mentality going forward is to not allow my sense of self-worth and my ability to communicate my story to be dictated by whether or not I have a job. That's the biggest takeaway for me from all of this. And that's why I also named my channel, right? The Journey to Ithaca. I feel like on this journey, transforming how I think about myself, not feeling ashamed to reach out to people when I need help, transforming how I would say take care of myself as well, is what I want to do going forward, even though I do have a role that I currently like. And if this resonates with you in any way, please leave a comment below about where you are on your journey. And if you found any of this helpful or comforting, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll be sharing more about my journey to Ithaca navigating career transitions and building better systems and thriving after setbacks.